It's time now for the Sports Objective Podcast. No talking heads, just guys who love sports. Here's Dave Richmond.
Welcome into the Sports Objective Podcast as we have a very special episode. We have right now with us Mr. Kyle from LaGrange Barber. What's up, man?
Is it one of those very special episodes like in the 80s on sitcoms?
Yeah, there's going to be a two-parter. No, we've got some great guests, right, Bubba Rosenbaum?
Yeah, we do. With it being the open week for East Carolina football, we thought it'd be an excellent time to catch up with Director of Athletics Jon Gilbert, so we'll do that, and then we'll also catch up with former All-American for the Pirates back in 2016, Evan Kruczynski. Kruz will join us.
Now, wait a minute, Bubba. Wait a minute. You're telling me, you mean to tell me the Director of Athletics at East Carolina came on a podcast?
Well,
he did.
He does. He comes on ours. It's the only ECU podcast.
Yeah.
By the way, folks. So.
You guys know anybody can have a podcast.
Well, that's it's a new day, a new age of media. So the people that are stuck in the old days of newspaper, television, and radio, they forget there's internet. They're like 20 years behind, really, if you think about it. There's internet.
Well, particularly when certain people utilize Facebook for about 90% of their listens. I mean, I'm just saying.
Anyway, we're off to a great start, but I will say that's one of the things that the three of us try to do is to educate people on. There are people that literally are new to the game as far as podcasts, and so it's our responsibility as being a new form of media to teach them how to find podcast players, and we work very hard on putting up on social media and various ways to promote the podcast so that people can to hear the podcast. So, but we work very hard on the podcast, and let me just say that it's not our full-time job. Believe me, we would much rather be doing our podcast full-time and just think about what we could do if we had, we working on it. We work on it really like a full-time job anyway, though, several hours every single day, right, guys?
Well, you and Bubba. I just do the calls. But nonetheless, well, I do.
But you help with promotion,
I promote it.
And social media stuff, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But, it's a labor of love, and hopefully we'll in time we will monetize it more and more. But I just find it interesting. People make comments, and maybe they weren't directed towards us. I didn't hear the comments personally; we're just told about them. But if you swing at me, I'm going to come out swinging harder.
Well, I can tell you that we have fun at what we do. We love what we do, and the podcast, I will tell folks, is not going away. So, as Steve Spurrier used to say when people said, "How come you score so many points on Vanderbilt?" He said back in the 90s, he said, "Get used to it." And so get used to our podcast. We've been around for about a year and a half over that now, and we're not going anywhere. In fact, we're getting bigger and better, and I want to thank all the listeners, too. There's a lot of listens every single month, and it's been catching on for over a year now. So maybe someday people will understand that podcasts are a big deal, and there's more and more people every single day that listen to a podcast than other forms of media. I mean, they just do, and especially guys, the younger generation, the 20-somethings, and maybe your decade, the 30-somethings. There's a lot of people listening to podcasts in your
20s, 30s. Yeah, absolutely, and some older listeners too. It's very all day at work. I'm able to put on my headset for majority of what I do at work and listen to music or whatever, and lots of times I'm listening to other podcasts, sports related podcasts or true crime podcasts. There's lots of great podcasts out there, and there are a lot of podcasts, and there are a lot of garbage podcasts, and they don't last.
Right.
The startup crap podcasts just don't last. So it is what it is, and that's enough about that. And anyway. So what's going on right now with Pirate Athletics during the off week, guys?
I enjoyed seeing Coach Joe Dooley. Yesterday being Thursday, they had an open practice, right, Bubba? I mean, that was really cool, and he spoke to the media. It was interesting, too, to the very fact, I think it's starting to set in with me about having the new, I guess it's a whole new with the team, and having the fact of having to learn all the new players' names, and it's basically a reboot, as we talked about, revamping the team. And I'm excited to hear what we hear behind the scenes. We had Cy Seymour on the last podcast. We're hearing bits and pieces from different people, and I think the one thing I'm excited about the most is the fact that we actually have a chance to compete in the league. Think about not having talent, like when Cy was talking about that. You don't have American talent, but because of Joe Dooley and his work ethic and getting them to play hard on defense, there were games they were able to be competitive, and there were games like the Cincinnati game where they upset them. And on the road at Memphis, they almost beat Memphis at Memphis last year, which is not easy to do. So a lot of great wins, I think, are coming. We only had 10 wins 2 years ago, 10 wins last year, and hopefully we get way more than that this year.
Yeah, I think from a talent standpoint, Cy flat out said it. The most talent he's seen in 21 years of being at East Carolina. From a talent standpoint, we're as talented as we've ever been. The American, though, is loaded this year. And early in the year, we're going to play some inferior competition in terms of talent, but we're going to have to come together and merge as a team. All these guys haven't played together, but from a strictly talent standpoint, we should be able to be in a lot of ball games this year, and hopefully they'll merge early. If the talent can come together early, and find out where everybody needs to be, we could really do some damage in our non-conference schedule. What do you think, Bo?
Yeah, Stephen Igo and Sam Anderson, the Hoist the Color staff, they were on hand yesterday for the open practice, and that's one of the things that really was apparent in Igo's excellent write-up, just talking about how we have the option of playing different ways. I mean, if we want to go small, we can go small, but
right.
even though we're going small, it's not playing small the way we did last year. We have the options of guys like Miles James and J.J. Miles, Batumba Baruti, who were 6'6", 6'7" at those 2 and 3 spots. So that's awesome to see. And Igo said that yesterday's workout was far and away better than anything he saw last preseason, and that was despite the fact that Tremont Robinson, Seth Leday, and Batumba Baruti were not practicing because of injuries.
Now, is that the only open practice when it was referred to at I can't remember what football game it was. They talked about there would be a special event announced. Was that it?
I have not heard of another open practice yet, but I did see what you're talking about. I don't know if it's going to be the USF game, maybe. I guess that would have to be it because VMI is obviously November 5th. So
right.
Yeah, I would say that day prior to USF, they'll have, I don't know if it's going to be a practice or intra-squad scrimmage or exactly what that open event will entail.
Gotcha. It's going to be really fun to watch this team, too. And I think, hey, Bubba, I think Kyle is actually going to come to some basketball games this year.
Yeah, I think so too. Hopefully the lower bowl will be full, but if nothing else,
we can get Kyle in there. We can get Kyle in there and signing autographs and taking pictures with kissing babies.
I haven't been to a basketball game since I haven't been to a basketball game since the CIT run. I'm just, you were
frustrated, right?
Yeah, exactly. Basketball's just not my favorite sport, period. I mean, just across the board. I don't mean East Carolina. I mean, I don't watch the NBA. College basketball, I'll watch at the start of the year, then I'll watch in March. It's just not my favorite sport. But when we're winning, I get into it because, anything the Pirates are winning, then I'm going to get behind. So,
like volleyball?
Yeah, well, I'm supporting the volleyball team right now. They're winning and
doing really well.
Yeah, so. But I'll definitely plan on making it to a Pirate basketball game or two, or maybe several this year.
Well, you can come with me. I ordered season tickets and did that for the economy plan right behind the basket. We our good friend for the podcast, Barry Kearney, that listens to the podcast, want to give him a shout out. He was not too far away from me. I think, Bubba, you were your season tickets. Well, you and your dad were on the other end zone, right?
They are, and then
behind other.
Yeah, they're on the opposite end, on the end away from the Murphy Center. But Yeah, and there were a couple games that I attended last year where I sat on that end because I was sitting with Stephen Asby or Barry Kearney, like you mentioned.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And one thing that I want to mention, too, guys, is I'm hoping that we can see, we were talking about, we'll get to that interview in just a second with Jon Gilbert, but I want to see some, maybe some food trucks or some way that we could, I know you can't have the food truck obviously inside there, but some way.
I think they should do it.
Just put the food truck in there.
Yeah, do it.
put the food from the food trucks. Maybe have the food trucks outside and bring it in, or I don't know how you can do it, but I want to see some kind of variety there. I think that would be really cool. And Kyle and I know, I don't know about Bubba, but Kyle and I are kind of like food truck nerds. So any way you can have a food truck involved in the ECU event, I'm all for it.
Well, a bigger variety of food somehow is desperately needed at the basketball game. I mean, even.
You have like nachos and hot dogs.
Yeah,
about
exactly.
it.
Just get it to the point of the football games where, the concessions, from my limited experience in recent years of going to Pirate basketball, it's garbage.
And they don't have. I know that they're going to try to see if they can open up some more. That's my biggest complaint is it seems like at basketball games there's not enough concessions open, and I know part of the problem has been you don't have enough. It's a business thing. You don't have enough people in the stands, in the butts and the seats, so to speak. So I get it, but I really believe that this year we're going to be in more games, more people are going to come. I think, Bubba, that beginning of January, that schedule is 3 out of 4 of those conference games first are at home. We need a whole bunch of people at those games. That could be a really big storyline if we can win. Say, even if you win 2 out of those first 4, or anything would be better than what we've done the last few years, right? In the American,
would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Dave. And as you look at the schedule and you talk about those 3 conference games at home after opening at Wichita State to begin league play, going back to the month of December, you have all 5 games in the month of December at Williams Arena, Minges Coliseum. So when you look at that stretch from December 3rd to January 15th, 8 out of our 9 games are at home. So hopefully we can make a lot of hay in that stretch, and Pirate Nation will make Minges a tough place to play.
Do you have the 3 conference games in front of you that are at Minges?
I do. The first one is January 7th against USF, and then that Saturday, the 11th, is SMU, and then the 15th, the following Wednesday night, is Tulsa.
Now, see, that's interesting. All 3 of those are winnable. Now, not to take anything away from all 3 of those schools. All 3 of those schools are going to look at East Carolina and come in and, at least on paper, expect to win. But, it's not Cincinnati. It's not Wichita. Well, we already are going to play Wichita State, but it's not Memphis. It's 3 games that it's not Houston. You look at those 3, you think you have a chance. So that'd be great. But we'll see. Now, also looking at the schedule, there's not any weird anomaly like there was last year where we play a game at the beginning of December and not play until Christmas, is there?
No, there's not. And there's only one thing on that I was, a friend of mine, Jason Williams, is a good friend of mine. He wanted to come to some games with me, and we were talking about it. And I'm just disappointed. I'd forgotten. We talked about it a few months ago when the schedule came out. I forgot that James Wiseman is not going to be, Memphis is not coming to town to East Carolina. I think that's going to be that's a disappointment, because not only to see the number 1 player in the country, but also the fact that that's a game that I thought that, okay, this is going to be great, because we can definitely get a big, just because of James Wiseman alone, that we could get a big crowd to come in to just that element of, I want to see Wiseman play. And instead, we're not there. For some reason, the schedule, maybe, Bubba, they're not coming here this year.
Right. The only game we have against Memphis, like you said, is out at the FedEx Forum, and that comes on February 19th.
You alternate teams off your schedule that you only play once. You play a home and home with everybody but 1 or 2 teams.
Okay.
I think it's 2 teams. And 1 team you play there and 1 team you play here. So there's 1 team that's going to play only in Greenville this year. Is that Connecticut, Bubba?
I believe that is correct. It's UConn comes to Greenville on Saturday, February 29th.
Yeah, so the very last time we play UConn. That's another game. We need to have people, that environment at Williams Arena at Minges Coliseum needs to be so rowdy, so hostile, with the fact that's the last time we're going to play them in the conference, right, in American.
And that's be the last time we play them ever, unless we meet them in a postseason tournament, because they ain't fixing the schedule us non-conference.
No, we're not allowed to. Right? Isn't that right? The Americans said we can't schedule. Nobody can schedule UConn like non-conference. Am I wrong on that?
They didn't say that. I told you they should say that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I agree with that. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
Randy Edsel was talking about football and how he, liked to continue to play certain American Conference teams in football, and how they're working on a home and home with UCF, and he'd like to continue to play South Florida and one or two other teams for recruiting purposes. And I thought to myself, you mealy-mouthed bastard, do you actually think UConn in football, after you're leaving the league, has the audacity and the right to dictate who you play in football from the American Athletic Conference? In my opinion, Oresco should tell all the members of the American, I strongly encourage you guys not to schedule games with Connecticut.
Because what they're trying to do...
Well, really in any sport. Because they don't want to be associated with us. They want to go back home in basketball to the Big East and play Seton Hall and Georgetown, Villanova, and all these other stupid schools. And so let them go play them. And then in football, let them figure out how to schedule somebody. Because I don't want to play them. I don't want to play them in football. I don't think anybody in the American should. But anyway, that's that.
Well, all we have to do is schedule North Carolina instead of UConn, right? We can win that game.
Well, exactly. Well,
football, let me say football.
They won't play us either. So.
Yeah, there are too many people. I mean, if you're going to play somebody from the Northeast, why not play
Syracuse, Pitt?
Well, Syracuse or Pitt would be great. But Rutgers is somebody we haven't played. We recruit up in that area some. At least we have in the past.
Well, quite honestly, and I know what you're getting at, Bubba. But quite honestly, Buffalo's a better program than UConn.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt that they've been much more competitive in recent years.
And we can play the University of Mo, right?
Right. They did something that I know we're going to find a way to do, but we haven't done it in 6 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Boston College.
I think they've done it the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And they won at the Link last year.
Yeah, you got Boston College, and if you want to play a bad independent program, just go ahead and play UMass. They're terrible. I mean, if you want to play a terrible football program in the Northeast that's independent, play the original terrible football program in the Northeast. Play the UMass Minutemen. I mean, let's get UMass on the schedule.
All right, you guys want to go to our first interview?
Yeah, we're talk scheduling in a more professional manner with East Carolina Athletic Director Jon Gilbert.
Well, it's the fall time, and obviously lots of fall sports going on. And anytime we can have our next guest on, we're happy to do it. And that is the Director of Athletics for East Carolina University, Jon Gilbert. Jon, thanks so much for coming back on.
Thanks for having me.
Wanted to have you on. So much to talk about, so little time, and I know you're very busy, so appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. I just want to say before we start the interview, I had a chance finally to see the finished product of the Town Bank Tower. I was overwhelmed with emotion with the Temple game, because I walked in there and I was thinking, Jon, I've been going to Pirate games since 1986, and I was like, this is not your granddaddy's Ficklin Stadium anymore.
Yeah, it really is a special place, and I couldn't be more thrilled with our fan base and attendance, and especially our students. And certainly Town Bank Tower has added to the atmosphere at Dowdy-Ficklin. It really has become a social hub, and obviously you saw the media amenities. We're as good as anyone in the country in that regard with the way Town Bank Tower has turned out.
And I want to give a shout-out to Greg Steele and everybody at Town Bank Tower. I appreciate them stepping up to the plate for sure. I wanted to ask you, as far as the home game operations, it's kind of weird. We've been talking about it off the air, but it seems like, I know it's good for Coach Houston, but a long time between the games. And then when you add the fact of the home game being, I think it's 23 days between last home game in Temple last week until the next home game on the 26th. I wanted to ask you, as far as home game operations, how do you think things are going so far?
Well, the first game is well documented. We had some operational challenges that I do feel like in games 2 and 3 we got rectified and are much smoother. The last 2 games I've been really pleased the way we've operated, the stadium on game day. And so I think much like the team has needed an off weekend, I think our staff has needed a little bit of a break for the next home game. And so I think those breaks are good. It gives you time to assess what you're doing, maybe do a deep dive on how we can do things better. Our fan base has been really good about sending feedback of what's working and what's not working. And, I really like that. I can't see everything. And so when an issue arises, I'm really glad when they point it out so we can figure out how to fix it.
As far as the fan-friendly prices, new concession prices, have you seen some positive feedback towards that?
I have. Our concessions have gone well. The first game we didn't maybe move people as quickly through with the help of campus. They assisted. We hardwired our concession stands to be more efficient with credit cards. And so I think we, over the last 2 games, have been able to move more people through in an expeditious manner but because of that.
One question I know on the fan on the street question is dealing with something new to the stadium. It's still very weird to me to see beer like cans or the bottles like people walking around with them. How have beer and wine sales been so far for the beginning of the season? They've gone well. I think that not knowing what to expect, I've been really pleased with it. We've had little to no alcohol-related incidents, and I think a lot of that stems from people feeling like they don't have to drink a bunch out in the parking lot and come in. They know that, hey, if I want to buy a beer in the stadium, I can do that. And so I think that it's helped in that regard. And hopefully limiting the amount of binge drinking. We know that goes on because people they couldn't buy alcohol as far as beer and wine was considered in the stadium, and now they can. Shifting gears as far as away from beer, one of the things I've been really impressed with, I really love the addition of, and because I'm a father and have kids, is the Kids Zone. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, our marketing staff has done a great job of putting together a Kids Zone. Obviously, we've got multiple sponsors with that. Ryan Robinson and our external staff have been working with IMG to secure the space, secure sponsorship, and then make it as interactive as possible. And I know that it's been a huge success. We've been really pleased with it. I think there are ways we can continue to fine-tune it, make it better. We're looking at what elements we can bring inside for basketball, because I do think there's the ability to maybe do some of that in Minji's as well. And it's just another way that we can engage a fan base at an early age. They come to the game, they can enjoy doing that. And it's one more reason, to get people to Dowdy-Ficklin. So I've been really pleased with it.
And my kids will be happy to hear that. As far as basketball, I know, speaking of Williams Arena, I wanted to ask you foremost, with the excitement going on with women's and men's basketball, will there be more concessions open? That's been I know we didn't have the number of fans going, but I'm hoping that'll be a good problem to have, where we have more people in the stands this coming basketball season.
Yeah, we actually talk about that all the time. In fact, we had a staff meeting today, and we spent a considerable amount of time talking about basketball concessions. I really do want to make that better. I think that we can make it better. We've talked to Aramark about, I hear a lot of times people talk about how good concessions are at baseball, and it's the same group that does all of our sports. And so I want to dial in,
some of the things we can't change, where our concession stands are and the flow of those. But I think we can manage them a little better and create some one-off opportunities and some nooks and crannies and minges to create a better concessions environment.
Great. I'll ask about it now. One of the things Bubba mentioned, which is a good idea, is really happy about the different graphics. I know that Williams ran in different places. I know with the basketball practice facility, it's what we used to call, John, and I know that you're new, and Ryan, I don't know if you've ever heard that trademark. We call it Pedro, the Pirate, instead of P, the Pirate, but I know that you've actually changed that now to update the graphics, right?
Yeah, we've actually changed it on the basketball practice facility, and we added another one in, and I don't know that it got noticed as much, or people maybe thought it was there for a long time. But on the Murphy Center, if you're inside the football stadium, we added one on the left-hand side, which would be the south side of the Murphy Center, facing the football field, a large Jolly Roger logo. We're painting the inside of Minges. We're painting a purple strip around the break between the lower level and the upper level. We're going to add some graphics into Minges. And when I got here, we were maybe a little deficient from a branding standpoint, and I think doing this to Minges will make a big difference.
John, one of the questions I had for you is concerning football scheduling. I heard a recent interview, I say recent, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago now, but you were talking about how there was a future P5 opponent that we hope to schedule home and home. So has there been any further developments with that?
Not right now. We're working through a contract with that. I'm hopeful that it will stay together. I want to make sure that we're protected as an institution, and so one of the things that's important to me when we do a home-and-home contract is the buyout is high enough where if we go to a different institution first, that when they come to Greenville, they can't buy us out for a small amount of money. And so we're still working through some logistics with that. Also working on a Power 5 game in 2023, where that would be like a guarantee or buy game where someone would pay us, a lot of money to go to their place. And it's not something that I want to do, make those games, bread and butter, but I do think given where we are financially, we're going to need to do a game or two like that in future years.
John, one of the questions I had for you, because we love your previous place, we had a great rivalry with Southern Miss. Is that a school that we can, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but that's a school that a lot of Pirate fans would love to have back on the schedule?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to, and I think once we get some of these games finalized, it may not hurt to have a media session strictly on football scheduling. We have quite a few games that are scheduled in the future, and so it is like putting a puzzle together.
Right.
My philosophy is always, let's play teams that our fans can drive to, or a regional game that makes sense. If you see us announce a game where you scratch your head and go, man, why are we playing them? It probably is because we've exhausted every other opportunity and there are not many grapes left on the vine. So my preference is more regional games, when available.
What about, I was going to ask about one particular team that people ask us all the time, so I'm going to throw out the Tar Heels. Any news or any progress there? Because that's something in Pirate Nation they always ask as far as scheduling. When are we going to, and it goes back to, I guess, the number of teams we already have scheduled with, when are we going to have UNC back on?
I think that the UNC series is important, and I do want to get them back on our schedule. the way that we are scheduled in football, we will have very few opportunities to schedule North Carolina till probably mid to late 2020s. So it'll be 28, 29 and beyond. As I look at their schedule and I look at ours, it'll have to be something that far back.
Right. And another question I had for you is regarding shifting gears a little bit from the scheduling. I wanted to ask you as far as any updates on, I know Coach Houston talked about his priority of having an indoor practice facility. Is there any more discussions, anything going on there?
Not at this time. Obviously, I do think a indoor building is needed if we want to advance the program, which I know we all do. Obviously, there's a funding component to that. You're looking at a $20 to $25 million expenditure, and I would say from a timing standpoint, I want to make sure that everyone's on board before we launch into that.
I did. So, John, I was going to ask you concerning the game day atmosphere of basketball. I know we talked about concessions, the kids zone, and so forth. I remember back when Joe Dooley was here the first time, and this is something that's kind of minor. It doesn't even so much fall under your hat, but there was I believe we played it's a Pirates themed song going from kind of leading up to tip off. Something like that with the pep band is kind of unique and kind of enhances the game day atmosphere. So whether it's something like that or other things, can you talk about some of the things to spice up the atmosphere in Minges in addition to just playing winning basketball?
Well, certainly I think the job that Joe and his staff has done with our basketball program from a roster management standpoint, I think there's a lot of excitement there. Obviously, we want to do things to enhance our game day atmosphere. We need to be better in concessions, the added kid zone. Our marketing department is working on entrance video and other things to enhance the game day atmosphere. And I made a note to find out what kind of pirate-themed songs can we incorporate to enhance that atmosphere.
And John, very quickly before we moved on, I just had this more of a comment, but for out-of-towners like myself who live in the western part of the state, 30 minutes north of Charlotte, wherever folks are coming from, obviously we have a lot of our fan base that comes from a good distance away at times, and I like those weekend games like the non-conference games where we had the opportunity to play them at 4 o'clock. So I really, really like that, where you can leave without leaving too early and then get home before midnight.
Yeah, I think the 4 o'clock is, to me, if we can choose the time, I like the 4 o'clock tip. It gives people enough time to do whatever they want to do on a Saturday. They can come to the game at 4. Basketball is one of those unique sports where you can pretty set your clock to, it's going to be about a 2-hour time commitment, and then people can leave and go have dinner. So I'm a big fan of the 4 o'clock tip.
Well, John, I don't have to worry about that because Bubba would love to be in my position. I only have 40 minutes from the stadium, so I know he's jealous of me before I get to see more of the games that we. He's like, he said, man, if I were living there, I would be going to every single thing. I was like, I don't know if your wife Stacy would like that, but as far as I wanted to mention too, John, giving you kudos to you and the staff. I'm just really excited about. We tried to have on we're down to a few coaches left, but we're trying to have every coach on, and I think the atmosphere as far as the work atmosphere, and I always say you're only as good as the top, and I just really appreciate, I know there's a lot of people in Pirate Nation, the transparency. When you're a leader, it's actually someone who takes accountability for things, and I appreciate all the times you've not only come on, but just the fact that what you've done for Pirate Nation, and just since early December of last year hasn't been that far away.
Well, it really doesn't feel like, I'm closing in on a year, and it really doesn't feel like it. it's been a wonderful transition. Eastern North Carolina is a great place to live. We've got a wonderful staff here. I knew when I took the job, part of that was making sure that, I was visible and accessible. And I think that has been a staple of, my administration here and our staff. Our staff is very visible and accessible, and we want to build a culture that, number one, it's a really good place to work. People enjoy coming into the building every day. And then two, we want to make it a place that our fan base wants to come and watch games and interact with our student athletes. And I'm not where I want to be. I think there's a tremendous amount of growth here at East Carolina, but I am really pleased with the direction we're headed.
I did want to ask you a football question. I was going to ask you earlier in the interview and just realized it. How do you feel about, I know you have a good relationship, obviously, with the first official hire you made with Mike Houston. How do you feel about Coach Houston, and where do you think how do you think the program is now?
Well, at this point, I'm really pleased with the direction we're headed in. And, we're fortunate enough that, we work in an industry where there's a scoreboard in every venue. So when you leave, whether you won or lost. To take it a step further, I really see our student athletes in our football program on a daily basis, and I see the transformation that they're making from back in December when I arrived to now. I think Coach Houston and his staff have established a really good culture. They've got expectations. They're holding each other accountable to those expectations. And while I wish we were, had won a few more games, I also know that a really good foundation is being laid by this team. And, the way that they are setting this foundation, I do think Pirate football is going to be successful in the near future.
It's definitely going to be exciting, and I know I want to remind fans, too, about as far as I'm sure they can still get are there any mini plans available or any tickets they can get because there's still half the season left?
We haven't done a mini plan yet. We do still have games available on a single game basis. We're talking about what a mini plan would look like, but we've had pretty good sales thus far for the South Florida game, which is homecoming. And so I'm hopeful that those individuals that haven't come to a game will buy a single game ticket and come see our product.
Well, also, I want to remind fans with not only football but basketball, John, I know that I just literally right before we were doing this interview, I had a phone call about basketball, men's basketball, to renew my basketball tickets. So I did for men's basketball, and I want to remind fans to dial 1-800-DIAL-ECU, ecpirates.com. You can go on there online and buy your tickets as well. And I'm hoping that we've seen in the past, John, even as back to 2013 with basketball. We were talking about that with Cy Seymour on our last podcast. The CIT tournament back in 2013 is such a great – I can't wait for you to see a packed arena with Williams Arena and here in the near future. Hopefully it'll be here pretty soon. I know we've got the first game coming up in November.
Yeah, we both our women's and men's programs, I think we've got great leadership in Kim McNeil and Joe Dooley, and I think that our future is bright in basketball. And I do think it's going to be a product our fans are going to want to see.
We're very excited. I know that you spent a lot of time with us. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add before we go, John?
No, thanks for having me. We'll be happy to go on anytime you ask, and go Pirates.
Thank you very much, Jon Gilbert. And Kyle, I wanted to get your take on that about, I know about scheduling and all that. I personally think with the when it comes to 2023 and the premium game, I call it the marquee game. Some people call it buy me game, whatever you want to call it.
It's a buy game.
Yeah, it's a buy game. He was honest about it. I like the fact he said he didn't want to do that on a regular basis. I know you're going to say you don't want to do it at all. But we, Bubba and I, the crack research team up here, and we told you, Kyle, and I know you are a scheduling nerd as well. That's one thing the three of us can agree on. We all love schedules and talking about them. But we looked and did some research, and we can do some more. But Bubba, I know there's a few teams. There's two teams that come to mind that have. He said in the interview, you just heard it, folks, that he's looking for the biggest payday. Well, as far as the biggest payday, you have Texas and Alabama, both that have openings on their schedule, and Tennessee, right?
Absolutely. Tennessee in 2023, they had, I think it was 3 openings. And then you had Texas had a couple, and then Bama had one. Obviously, has that long time tie to Bama as well as Tennessee. So those would be the directions that I would lean. But then Texas did have those openings as well. And just a little bit about that, even though I don't think it's going to be Texas, just to give you an idea of the type of money. And granted, they were supposed to go to USF, and so they were buying the way out of that game. They paid the Bulls $1.9 million to come to Austin.
Yeah, I don't like doing buy games. These one and done buy games on the road. Not a fan of it. I know Confer destroyed the budget. I get that, but you know what? Figure it out some other way. I'm not a fan of pouring yourself out on the road in a game where you're not going to get a return date. By 2023, you know, Coach Houston should have this thing rolling. It's just there's no point in it. Now, going to Alabama is a no-win situation to me. Texas, who knows? Probably not. But, you know, Tennessee's winnable. I don't care. I just don't like it. If you can't come to Greenville, I don't want to play you. Now, we you know, I wasn't able to take part in the interview because of my real job, but it sounds like, guys, that, you know, as discussed before, he is close to inking a deal on home and home with a Power 5 opponent, which that's great. Be interested to see who it is. There's some rumors out there, but it'll be interesting to find out who it actually is and when it gets done. The rumor is that it's the Big Ten team, correct?
We had heard that somebody maybe like Rutgers, and that is a program that had been tossed around. And something else I wanted to mention, Kyle, on the scheduling front, for any of our listeners who are wondering, well, could that bye game be Clemson? Well, Clemson is currently full for 23, and in the past we've talked about why we didn't think that would make sense anyway to schedule Clemson in that way in a bye game. But and I certainly feel that way very strongly, as I know you do.
Yeah, well, when you schedule a bye game with Clemson and North Carolina and NC State is in the same conference with them, and Wake Forest, et cetera, and play them home and home on a regular basis, it's going to be kind of hard to then go and get home and home with those schools. To me, it sends the wrong message. So, no, you don't schedule a bye game with any ACC school, and if we ever do, I'm going to lose my effing mind.
No, that's true, and especially when there's enough. My thing is there's enough opponents out there, Kyle, too, that we talked about this before. He said in an interview, it was interesting, that if you see where you're scratching your head, why are we playing that team, it's probably because there's not any, like, in other words, any more fruit left on the tree, meaning that they were basically having to get a home and home with whomever. That's why I wonder if
that's going to happen.
Well, that was my take. Was it yours, Bubba? We'll have to listen back to the interview again, but that was my take, is that the Power 5 would be a school that could be
a
head scratcher. I don't know. That was my take.
Home. Well, you know what? If it's a Power 5, I don't care. No matter what Power 5 it is. If it's a
I don't care about
state, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't care about it.
Rutgers, Kansas, Illinois, Indiana. I don't care. I mean,
as long as it's a Power 5 and they're coming to Greenville and it's a big name in any of those schools because of the ESPN platforms and the way the Power 5 gets shoved down your throat, it's a big name. So if it's Oregon State, if it's like Bubba said, Indiana or Kansas, or you better watch Kansas. Les Miles liable to get that thing turned around.
Right. Yeah.
Any of those schools is perfectly fine. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't. Is there anybody else from the Big 12? Baylor? Well, Baylor's looking pretty good these days. But we'll find out. I'm interested to see. I actually embrace that. I'd love playing a out of market home Power 5 school. I hate using that term over and over. I think it would be fun, and also you get the element of players that aren't that good to begin with at a school like, let's say, Indiana, and you're good enough to go, well, who's East Carolina? And then we come in there and bitch slap them. So,
you know, the very fact that we could actually another thing about the Power 5 is every time you have a chance to play a Power 5 opponent, and if it's one that is in like the Big Ten, and say if it's Indiana or somebody, no offense to the Hoosiers, but they're a basketball school, and you beat Indiana, then that's still a win over a Power 5 school.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of, you know, the point I was making is any of them are quality wins. Purdue, that's another one. Purdue's, and I'd say
they're
Purdue,
better there now, but that would be a great opponent for us. So
they were headed that way. I don't know.
Yeah, they might be taking a step back, but I mean, I'm just saying they've been better recently than they were.
Brom's a good coach, for sure.
No question.
But not to get up on a tangent, guys, but as far as Syracuse, I know we talked about them earlier. We had a nice scheduling arrangement with them. I guess from the late '80s up through the early 2000s, playing them home and home on a fairly consistent basis. But you recall, I guess it was right after Terry Holland came on, maybe, because it was them and Wake Forest. They backed out of some deals.
No.
Or weren't willing to agree to some deals.
Wake Forest wanted to play us 2-for-1, if you can believe that. But I can tell you, I can tell you what happened with Syracuse. We had an opportunity to play NC State in '06. I believe it was an ACC school. Don't quote me on NC State '06. It was an ACC school, and we had a game against Syracuse already scheduled, and we asked Syracuse to move the game, and we also...
Was it the deal with UVA?
It may have been UVA, yes.
Oh, yeah. UVA was also... That's right.
I remember that big scheduling announcement where we had the home and home with UVA.
Yes, I think it was. And we asked Syracuse to move the game, and we even offered them a replacement opponent, the Ohio Bobcats, because we had a home game with Ohio, home and home with Ohio. We canceled for somebody else also. And Syracuse, basically said, we're not interested in playing Ohio. And so it was kind of our fault, actually, that one. Okay. And it kind of ended. Now, I would make the argument that because of Syracuse joining the ACC and starting to play teams in this area on a regular basis, that it would have came to an end anyway. They didn't need East Carolina anymore for recruiting purposes. So that was kind of on us. Now, the Wake Forest thing, they had gotten good at that point, and that was when they were rolling with
Jim Grobe, right?
With Jim Grobe, and they actually wanted to play us 2-for-1, and Terry Holland said, "Are you out of your damn mind?" So.
Absolutely, yeah. I recall that. And as far as, I'm trying to remember, there was something else I was going to point out regarding the deal with Syracuse, but I don't recall what it was.
Maybe start playing them again? Is that what you wanted to get to?
No. We mentioned that earlier, but no, there was something more specific. But
okay.
What do you want to move on to our next guest?
Yeah, that's what
we'll take a break and regroup.
With Pirate baseball success under Cliff Godwin, those first couple years in 2015 and 2016 where we won the conference tournament and also won a regional the following year, one of the arms that was very key to that success was Evan Kruczynski, and we had the opportunity to catch up with Kruz recently, and let's go to that conversation right now. All right, it's early October, and obviously Major League Baseball playoffs are in full swing, and I know the guy we're about to talk to right now, he's been a part of the Cardinals Organization for the last 3 seasons, and he's an East Carolina baseball alum. Evan Kruczynski. Kruz, welcome into the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming on. I know you have to be very happy right now with the way Game 5 of the division series down in Atlanta got off to a tremendous start with the Cardinals plating 10 in the top of the first.
Yeah, I think the first time in Major League Baseball history we broke a record for double digits in the first inning. But no, it's good to see, especially my buddy Tommy Edman contributing in that first inning with RBI double, so it's fun to watch.
Absolutely. I saw a little bit of it before I left to come to my son's baseball practice, and scoring 10 runs on 5 hits, and you had a little bit of everything like you typically do in a 10-run inning. But so let's talk about you. I just started, I guess, going back to 2012 or 2013. Prior to coming to East Carolina, you were up in Franklin, Wisconsin. So talk a little bit about your recruitment and what made that decision to come play your baseball for East Carolina under what was then head coach Billy Godwin.
Jeez, it's been a while since I had to think about this. No, it was a pretty easy decision, honestly. My parents kind of just left it up to me. The whole recruiting process, they let me deal with everything, and basically just said, go where you feel like you fit in. And visited down to ECU a couple of times. Honestly, didn't know much about the school, but in visiting with Billy, Coach Rozelle, and just the community, got to go to a football game. I fell in love right away, and definitely was the best decision I've made in my baseball career up to this point.
Something else I wanted to ask you before we dive into your career is several years earlier, the Pirates had a left-handed pitcher from up your way, and now he's the mayor of Greenville, P.J. Conley. Did you know P.J. at all?
Actually, I've never met him. I heard he was from up my way, and I obviously heard he was a left-handed pitcher, but never had the opportunity to meet him.
Gotcha. So talk about you're coming into the Pirate program in 2014, like we said, under Billy Godwin. You pitched minimally that first season, and then you had the coaching change, but you did have the opportunity to see Coach Rozelle, your pitching coach, stay on. So I know that had to be nice for you. And then you had a highly touted coach like Cliff Godwin coming in, who was an East Carolina alum. So that 2015 season, not a whole lot of expectations, at least externally. Obviously, you had very high expectations within the program. You had a solid season, won 8 games, had an ERA of just a little over 3. Started the team high 16 games. So talk a little bit about 2015 and that transition going from Coach Billy Godwin to Coach Cliff Godwin.
Yeah. I mean, before 2015 even happened, 2014 is a big reason why I had success in 2015. As dumb as it sounds, only throwing 1 inning my freshman year, you learn a lot during your struggles. I mean, at least you have an opportunity to learn a lot in your struggles. During that year, it was probably the toughest year I've ever been a part of my entire life. It's something I kind of went through this year again in Pro Bowl, but it's time to kind of like just look in the mirror and see what you have to work on. This was my first year of college baseball. It kind of exposed me, showed me what I needed to get better at, what I needed to improve on. I think I did a pretty good job of that following summer in summer ball. And Coach Rozelle coming back and having faith in me and trusting me, I mean, it just basically set up the blueprint for my future success at ECU. But, yeah, that sophomore year was pretty crazy. Week before, you have Reed Love sliding into second base, breaking his hand. And you never wish that upon anybody, but having the opportunity to take the ball opening day against Virginia, talk about having 0 sleep the night before. And, I think that's part of the big reason I was able to have success, though, is because, it was just all the trust. Trust from Coach Godwin, Coach Cliff Godwin, Coach Rozelle, and my teammates. Because we were like you said, we were the only people who believed in ourselves. So it's a pretty tight-knit group. And 2015 was just a fun year just because of, like you said, no expectation. We were just all out there playing for each other. I mean, I think we had like 12 total guys that honestly played and about 8 total pitchers. So it was not a very deep team, but a pretty tight-knit team, and to win that conference tournament that year was a heck of a ride.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. That was a memory for sure that I'll never forget. Seeing that dog pile in Coach Godwin's first season down in Clearwater.
And I'll never forget the ball that Luke Volka hit off the tiki hut in left field.
Yeah, he was my roommate my freshman year, pitcher, and I just remember Coach Godwin saying, "Hey, if you don't walk anybody this weekend in scrimmage, I'll give you a shot to hit." Turns out he had a pretty good career hitting for us.
Yeah, he really did. So that momentum, that foundational year of 2015 under Cliff, and then going into 2016, we had a solid season. So you had a stellar year, third-team All-American by D1 baseball, and obviously first-team All-AAC selection. You were 8-1 with a 2 ERA, and tremendous command, strikeout to walk ratio, something like 3.5 or 4 to 1. But that year, I know one of the games that really had to stand out in your mind had to be that outing that you had against Tulane where you struck out 13.
Yeah, it's honestly, I don't remember much from that game other than that ninth inning. It was tough. If I could take one pitch back from that entire year, it'd be the first pitch of that ninth inning, and hitting Jake Rogers, who I actually became pretty good friends with in pro ball, but hitting him to lead off the top of that ninth inning on the first pitch. Then 2 pitches later, get a single, get pulled, and 5 pitches later, we lose the ball game on Friday night in a game that was a nut cutter from start to finish. But that's college baseball for you. But yeah, like I said, that was a crazy year. Just for the team aspect, so many highs and lows, ups and downs, and just to look at the super regional, I mean, how crazy that was. I mean, you're down, 6-3 going into the ninth against UVA, and that's basically how that season was. I mean, it's just getting hot at the right time. You're a streaky team, in my opinion. You win the series at the beginning of the year against UVA, and then drop on USF, who end up finishing the bottom tier of the conference, go to the conference tournament, get knocked out in 2 games, and get hot in the regional, and get hot on actually win our first super regional game. So that was a crazy 2016.
Yeah, it really was. Like you said, the conference tournament, 2-Q, and then get sent to Charlottesville and playing UVA, a team, like you said, and defending national champions, and we had taken 2 from them early in the season. So we knew we could do it. It was just a matter of going out there and getting it done. And, that one of the games when I think back to your career that really comes to mind is that outing you had against Bryant, where you went 7 shutout innings. And obviously Bryant was a tremendous team, and it was 1-0 through 7. And then you having the outing that you had and us playing the defense we played and enabled us to put up that 7th spot there in the top of the 8th, I guess it was.
Yeah, looking back at my entire ECU career, that's got to be my favorite start that I've had. Honestly, I was running on fumes in the playoffs, including the conference tournament. I was gassed. It was the first time I've thrown over 100 innings in my career. I knew Bryant had a pretty good lineup, but just trusting Coach Ozell, trusting Travis behind the plate, and the defense behind me played incredible that game. It's one of the images of ECU I'll never forget is Garrett Brooks laying out in the 6th or 7th inning to catch that ball, coming in on that ball to his left. It was just a special moment because, winning game 1 of the regional, getting my second chance to win game 1 of the regional when the year before, down in Miami, Coach gave me the ball for game 1 against Columbia, and, I gave up a leadoff home run, first batter of the regional. It wasn't ideal, but to come back the next year and go 7 scoreless against a pretty potent offense. And the first time in my career I told Cliff, he asked me if I could go back after the 8th, and first time in my career I told him, Coach, I'm done. Luckily, he put up that 7th spot right after, but yeah, that's one of the memories that I'll cherish forever. Just that opening game regional win against Bryant.
I've been looking backwards. You mentioned your recruitment to East Carolina by Billy Godwin, and you got a chance to go to a football game. Growing up in Wisconsin, you probably didn't know too much about ECU. What was your reaction when you got here for a football game and saw our fan support, and then later once you became a player to see it for baseball, were you surprised at how passionate Pirate fans were about athletics, or what?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably not going to like to hear this, but the initial letter I got from East Carolina, my dad threw in the garbage. Never heard about him. Obviously, I mean, I heard about him solely because of Chris Johnson. I'm a big NFL guy, so. And who's the? Why am I drawing a blank here? Super Bowl champion for the Packers, defensive lineman. Why am I drawing a blank?
Yeah. Go ahead, Kyle.
George Kuntz.
No. The more recent.
C.J. Wilson.
Yeah, C.J. Wilson. There we go. I knew he had a baseball name, the pitcher for the Rangers, and himself had the same name. But yeah. So I knew of ECU because of him and Chris Johnson, obviously. But baseball-wise, knew nothing about it. But honestly, I was a late bloomer in baseball. Never did I really think I was going to go play Division I college baseball. And so, I mean, there's no college baseball. There's one program. I think UWM actually went down to East Carolina a couple years prior to that, and they got swept. But I had no idea who East Carolina was. So, but yeah. So I got down there, got to go to the football game. I mean, that was something I never expected to. I mean, that was back in the prime of ECU football, or my prime from what I remember.
Right. What game it was?
I actually don't. I know my official visit was the Houston game, and they won that one. That was a pretty entertaining game. Shane Carden was the quarterback for that. I don't remember what my unofficial game was, but and then I actually got to watch the ECU baseball game against Houston, and I watched McDonald put one on the street, and it was a packed house. It was incredible. And just the stadium, I was shocked at how nice the stadium was. I'm a big fan of the grass burns, as weird as it sounds. I like a college baseball feel to it, and that Clark LeClaire is the definition of a college baseball field. I mean, just watching even the regional this year and seeing that place pack out, it was something I dreamed about when I was playing there.
And that's one of the things, Evan. Obviously, the popularity of the college game has really grown, and the exposure that it's getting now has really grown in terms of coverage on ESPN and so forth. But so what you're saying and just backs up, I think, what I've believed for a long time. You look at our baseball tradition. We've been to the regionals 30 times, and we've been to the super regionals, I guess, 5 times now. So when we make that first trip to Omaha, I've always said that once people find out around the nation that may not know about East Carolina baseball, and they find out how rich our tradition is, that I think our program will really explode.
Yeah, honestly, 2 years ago, my first year in pro ball, I came from East Carolina. Oh, yeah, cool. That's pretty cool. And then this year, I mean, throughout the year, I'll just be walking in the clubhouse, and someone from a top Power 5 school would come up to me and be like, "Hey, you go to ECU?" Like, yeah, why? Like, I saw the rankings today, and top 15. I was like, yeah. I mean, we're a pretty good program, and watching them have the rest of success throughout the year, and then seeing them that close to get a national seed. I mean, I think they're well on their way to raising the attention of the baseball programs throughout the country, and especially players, around my age, are still following their programs and seeing where they're ranked. But I don't think they're as shocked anymore to see the Pirates in the top 25.
No, if Coastal can win it all, we can damn sure do it.
No doubt about it.
Evan, kind of getting back to the tail end of that 2016 season, we talked about the Charlottesville Regional. Something else that was awesome that you and that team had the opportunity to accomplish out in Lubbock in a very difficult environment. You won that first ball game on Friday night against the number 7 national seed Texas Tech. And like you said, you didn't have your best stuff probably. You were running on fumes by that point in the season, but you grinded it out and found a way to give us a chance.
Yeah, if I didn't walk that leadoff guy 4 times, I probably could have got through 6. But but no, that was a heck of an environment, a heck of a weekend. It didn't turn out the way we wanted to, but I actually played this year and this past year with a guy on that Texas Tech team, and he said that he was a freshman maybe a redshirt freshman. I think he's a sophomore, a year younger than me. But he told me that in the clubhouse after Friday night that they felt something than they had felt before. I mean, I just remember, they always say don't post bulletin board material, and I just remember Travis Watkins put in our group chat after we got down there on a Wednesday. First game went until Friday, and when we were pulling up, we saw the reporters interviewing their players, and honestly, at that point, we weren't scared of anybody. We were just happy. We weren't happy to be there, but we were just. Like I said, we were just like a tight-knit group, but we see them doing their interviews, and no one's intimidated, no one's doing anything, and we get back to the hotel after the game, and Travis found the interview, and one of their players was saying, yeah, they don't know what they're coming into. They'll get their first real experience on Friday night, and I think that kind of sparked a fire underneath our rear ends just to get the weekend going. I feel like a Thursday practice was 10 times better than a Wednesday practice, and just going into Friday, having a back and forth punching match game. I mean, or boxing match game, I should say. I knew it would be a toughest game I had all year, but just having Travis give you the run support. I mean, single-handedly almost giving you the run support you needed, and just trying to keep us in the ball game, keep us the lead, and then Matt Bridges coming in and doing what he did to close that game out. I mean, that was incredible.
Yeah, not to get off on a tangent, but that's I actually spoke with his dad not too long ago, and it's awesome to see that Matt's back on the mound and pitching well early this fall.
Yeah, it's crazy to think he's still there. It makes me feel pretty old, but yeah, what an awesome kid, awesome family. I've got to meet his dad pretty well and his mom. Great people, great family, and I wish nothing but the best this year for Matt, and I'm excited to see him back out there.
So the fact that he's still here should make you feel young, actually, not old.
Yeah, that's a good point. But when I was back there a couple of weeks for Garrett Brooks' wedding. I saw him, and yeah, I don't know. It feels like a forever ago since I saw him pitch, and it was like, man, I can't believe you're still. It's like I saw a Snapchat of Volva yesterday doing this interview, and when I saw Volva still pitching last year, I mean, he was at one point 1 year younger than me. I don't even know how many years younger. I mean, I don't know how many years he was for. It had to be at least 6.
He was 1 year younger than you. I guarantee you he still is.
Well, it's hard to believe that when he was pitching last year. I like giving him a hard time, but
yeah, that was awesome to see Evan Volva have that year that he had after everything that he had gone through injury-wise as well.
Yeah, just another incredible person with an incredible family. It's cool to see him get drafted, and it's funny because Bryce Harmon is with the Yankees now in the scouting department. So seeing Bryce, maybe have a small part in getting Evan Volva into the Yankees organization, and Billy, because Billy recruited him to ECU, and then Billy was a scout for the Yankees last year. So seeing that all come around and get him with the Yankees and give him a shot at pro ball, and seeing the way he pitched last year in pro ball was awesome.
What are your thoughts on Billy getting back into the college game, taking over at Greensboro?
Yeah, it's awesome. I always knew Billy Godwin was a great coach. I wouldn't have came to ECU if I didn't think he was a great coach. I think he was just under a lot of pressure that last year, and I didn't do any favors for myself to get innings. So I never want to blame anybody else for it didn't matter who I was playing for my freshman year. I had a lot to work on, and like I said, I got exposed because I needed to work on a lot of stuff, and I wish nothing but the best for Billy. I actually got to talk to him a little bit my junior year when I was getting the opportunity to get drafted. It was good to catch up with him, and hopefully one of these days when I make it back down to North Carolina for not just a wedding, maybe I can go see him again. But I wish Billy nothing but the best at UNC Greensboro, and I'm excited to see what we can do with that program.
Yeah, Hunter Allen is, of course, on his staff.
Yeah, former teammate of mine. Hunter was he was actually on our staff for that Lubbock. He's been on the staff for 3 years now, 3 or 4 years. But yeah, Hunter's a great guy. excited for him. This is his first non-volunteer job or non-director of baseball operations job, so excited for him as well.
So coming off that momentum of 2016, obviously a lot of guys returning, and so expectations were sky high going into that 2017 season. Pirates ranked in the top 10, I think as high as maybe 6 or so. But starting off the year, a challenging series down at Ole Miss. Competed in all 3 of those ball games. Didn't go our way, and bounced back after that though, and had a nice stretch. But we had a lot of injuries, including to yourself. So just talk about going into that season, expectations for the team as well as yourself being so high, coming off 2016, and just how those hardships of that year and how they made you a better player, a better teammate.
Honestly, having expectations as seniors, I really, truthfully don't believe it got to us. I mean, you look back at that Ole Miss series, I mean, we could have won at least 2 of those ball games.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, that was just baseball, and I think that's where sometimes it gets a little blown out of proportion. You go down to a pretty hostile environment opening weekend. You compete in ball games, and you finish the weekend 0-3. I mean, yeah, people might want to start jumping off the ship right away, but at the end of the day, those are 3 good baseball games. We got to pull out one of them. But if you think about it, we had some young guys on that team that were getting innings. So I mean, it was a good weekend for everybody, even though we didn't obviously come away with a win. But you know, like you said, moving forward, we started to get hot, and everything was going in the right direction. Then Duane, of course, midweek game, slides in second base at Campbell, breaks his thumb. Tries playing through that, and obviously it gets worse. So you lose your freshman All-American from the year before. The following weekend, I break my leg. Tried pitching through that for a little bit. Didn't really work out. And, I mean, prior to that, didn't have a very good start against, I think, LaSalle. I don't remember what team it was, but at no point did I think it was expectation, because we had a bunch of old guys on the team. But what I do think is that, you know, me going down, Holber going down, and Duane going down, a lot of young guys had to step up. And, I mean, I put myself in those shoes. I mean, look at me as a freshman. I threw 1 inning on a team that had 0 expectation, and the prior year didn't make a regional. And now these freshmen are having to step into situations where the prior year we were a game away from Omaha. It's preseason ranked 6th in the country, and that's tough. That's where I believe expectations can catch up to people, or not catch up, but catch up to a team when there's just a bunch of young guys that haven't been through the fire. So, I mean, at one point we had 3 freshman pitchers on a weekend. I couldn't tell you the last time ECU had 3 freshman pitchers starting the Friday, Saturday, Sunday slate. And honestly, it sucks as much as it sucks for our class having to go through that. I really think it helped. I mean, look at the season, look at the career Jake Agnes put together. Trey Benton put together a pretty good career as well, and just Tyler Smith obviously, you know, didn't have the numbers he wanted to last year, but he's a vital part of their success that they had last year and the year before. Same thing for them to get to that regional. I mean, Tyler Smith has been throwing the ball incredibly well, and I think that 2017 had a lot to do with that and getting all those guys prepared and getting them playing time and getting them innings, you know, for the rest of their career.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you heard Coach Godwin really emphasize. Obviously, he wanted to win that conference tournament championship game against Houston, but since we didn't, we certainly took a lot of positives out of that experience. And had we gone on and won it, who knows, that may have been the case and may not have been, but I think, like you said, we certainly made the best of that situation, and the program got better. But so after that 2017 season, you were selected in the 9th round by the St. Louis Cardinals. So you spent the last 3 years in the Cardinals organization. I know you've pitched even more in Double and Triple A than you have in the time that you spent in Single A. So talk a little bit about your time with the Cardinals organization.
Time with the Cardinals organization so far has been incredible. Learned a lot about myself, learned a lot more about the game. I know I want to get into coaching at some level when I'm done. I've learned more about the game of baseball since I've been in this organization than I had the first 12 years I had playing this game. But no, it's been awesome just being able to have the opportunity that not many other people have, and getting to play against and with some of these guys that you're watching on the big screen. It's pretty cool.
And as we record this, the Cardinals are up 13-0 on the Braves.
Yeah, I'm multitasking right now. I'm staring at the TV while doing this. Gotta keep in check.
Now I'm not gonna ask you the question that Dave asked Evan last night. Ask him who he's going to be cheering for in the MLB playoffs. So I'm just going to assume you're going to the Cardinals.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I have to at this point. I at least have to say. I mean, if the Brewers were in it and we're playing the Cardinals, I'd cheer for the Cardinals. But it was fun to watch what the Brewers did last year, and you know, honestly, the run they put together in August this year was pretty cool to watch, just from any baseball player standpoint. To see them struggle and all of a sudden put together a September where they win something like 20 out of 23 or something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Now, Evan, did you finish this year in AA with Springfield? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, because I was looking at your starts from mid-July on through the end of August, and I noticed you pitched very well down the stretch. Just looking at the numbers, I think something like 8 out of your last 10 starts, you went at least 6 2/3 and allowed 3 runs or less in 7 of those games. So going into next season, do you anticipate starting off in AA, or where do you think you'll be?
Honestly, I never like to look at that. I don't like to play GM. I think once you start
right.
caught up in playing GM, that's when you find yourself out of a job. But what I did learn is I kind of had a strong finish to my year the prior year in 2018, and then had good numbers in the fall league, didn't pitch the best, but at the beginning of this year I found myself in trouble because I was trying to be the guy from the end of 2018 instead of just being myself. You know, every year you face new challenges. I think that was another reason why I got off to a pretty rough start my senior year of college, because I was chasing to be the guy from 2016, my junior year. So I actually, as bad as my first half was, I think what I did down the stretch is more of who I am, but I also realized I was better down the stretch because I was actually just being myself and not trying to chase a guy that I was last year or the guy who I was in 2016. You know, I'm just going to be myself and just stick to my game.
Absolutely. Well, Evan, you've been very generous with your time. We certainly appreciate you coming on the show. It's been great catching up. I know Pirate Nation will really enjoy hearing from you when this is released a couple days from now. But we'd love to catch up with you sometime when you're back in Greenville. And continued success with the Cardinals organization. And thanks again.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Pirate Nation, that is former Pirate left-hander Evan Kruczynski. All right, and thanks so much. And like I said, this will probably air on Friday, and I'll send you a link when we put it out.
Sounds good.
All right, take care.
Thanks,
Evan. You as well. Yep, you're welcome.
All right. Well, that was great with Evan. He actually is. It's cool that we had both Evans, and they're part of the Yankees organization and Cardinals organization, and it's going to be. We're down to 4 teams in MLB, and the Yankees and Astros in the American League, and you have the Cardinals and Nationals in the National League. And do you guys have a prediction on who you think is going to be in the World Series or even a World Series champion?
Why not?
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
We'll just say Yankees and Cardinals, and the Cardinals win it all.
I'm going to go. I'll say Yankees, Nationals because I love the Nationals, and I think the Yankees have a lot of talent. They win the whole thing. What do you think, Bubba?
I really haven't followed it very closely, just being honest.
Me neither, but I'm just
right. And I certainly follow college baseball a lot more closely than Major League Baseball. But
No, I'll say I will go with the Yankees and Cardinals.
And you like who to win it all?
I'll go with the Yankees.
All right, sounds good. So there we go. Now we have our World Series predictions, and we'll see how
folks are dying to know my uneducated opinion.
Well, you know what? It makes for good water.
Just in case it's out there.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's fun. And now it gives us fun to when we do that predictions. I mean, it's just a prediction, and we can actually. It's more fun when you watch the games. You see the games going on. Kyle said this. David said this. Bubba said this. So.
Yeah, I still can't wrap my head around after all these years that the Astros are in the AL.
Well, how about Corey Glor's team? The Brewers used to be in the American League, and they're in the National League because of Bud Selig.
It makes more sense for the Brewers to be in the National League when you look at geography and the other teams in the NL. And you know, well, I guess. I mean, you got the Braves. You got the Indians and the
Tigers.
Yeah,
Detroit's not too far away.
And the White Sox.
White Sox, yeah. I don't know. It was just a Bud Selig thing. I don't know why he did it, but he was commissioner and owner at the same time. So
something else has taken some time to get used to for me, even though it's been several years now, is as far as the Houston Astros being in the American League. I mean, growing up a Braves fan and just seeing the Astros in the National League, and
right.
and now they're playing the New York Yankees.
It doesn't make it. Yeah, the Astros
without it being the World Series.
Yeah, the Astros in the NL just seems, or excuse me, in the AL seems just way stranger to me than the Brewers moving to the NL. I don't.
Well, what happened is too, it was a realignment because they had the Astros were in the NL West, and so were the Braves. The Braves used to be until the early '90s. They were that was crazy.
The Astros in the NL West is fine. The Braves in the NL West is ridiculous.
It was back all that time.
Because I remember the Braves and the rivalry with the divisional rivalry with the LA Dodgers.
Well, you know what, it worked out for them.
But that was I mean, for two teams on opposite coasts like that was a heck of a rivalry. I remember some great battles between those teams.
What college football games are you looking forward to this weekend, guys? You got the Red River rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma. It's I guess the showcase for the weekend.
Well, the two that immediately come to mind are that one, and then obviously Florida going to LSU. But besides those two, what are some others you're looking forward to?
Well, let me see. Let's pull up the schedule here. Already been a couple good games played this weekend. App State played Wednesday night, got a big win over Louisiana State. Beat Syracuse last night in a snore fest. You got Maryland and Memphis and Temple in the American. That's a good one in the American. Just going over the schedule here, picking out some things. South Carolina, Georgia's a bit of a rivalry game. Georgia should win that one handily. Still looking over the schedule. BYU and South Florida is another one that's big in the involving a American Conference team and a upcoming opponent for East Carolina. Cincinnati, Houston's a big one in the American. Florida State at Clemson, that used to be the Bowden Bowl. And you know, can you believe that game's got to the point where Clemson's like a 20-some point favorite in that game?
And the last I saw, 27-point favorite or something like that.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy to think about. Bobby Bowden and then most of Jimbo Fisher's time there at Florida State that you would have where it's over. So that's over almost 4 touchdowns. That's just crazy to think that. Wow. I hadn't heard that line, but not a betting man, so I do pay attention to it, but I hadn't heard that particular line.
Michigan State. Go ahead, Bubba.
A couple games out west. I know we've talked a lot about the Boise State Hawaii game off the air. I'm very intrigued to see how that one plays out. And then in the Pac-12, Arizona has won 4 straight since losing their opener at Hawaii. So I'm interested to see exactly how much they have progressed. They will be taking on Washington.
Yeah.
Washington's lost a couple ball games, but the Huskies are obviously a solid program with Chris Peterson, and have done excellent things in recent years. So I believe that game is in the desert as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the Wildcats stack up against the Huskies.
Yeah, I agree. Michigan State at Wisconsin. Can anybody slow down Wisconsin? Yeah, they've been just brutal. Iowa State at West Virginia doesn't have a marquee ring, but that's going to be a fun game to watch. Texas Tech at Baylor's another good one in the Big 12. There's just a lot of good games this weekend. I thought last weekend was a garbage overall. Was a garbage week for college football. I think this week is a lot of fun. Ole Miss at Missouri is going to be a good one. Arkansas, Kentucky has potential to be a good one. Louisville at Wake Forest, guys. That's another fun game. Nebraska at Minnesota. That's my upset of the week. Minnesota's a 7-point favorite in that game. Give me Nebraska and the points. USC at Notre Dame. That used to always be a big deal. It's still a good game. Doesn't quite have the sex appeal that it used to. So it's a fun weekend for college football. If you're going to have an off week, this is a pretty good week to have.
Well, guys, it's going to be a great weekend of college football. I cannot wait. In fact, I have Saturday off, so I'll get to see some of the games, and that's going to be fun. And then we're off this weekend. I know the Tar Heels, for all the Tar Heel fans that listen, they're off this week, so we'll both be by this week, right?
We're both off this week, and
all right, sounds good. And on that note, I know we got some great programming coming up. Yeah, so we have coming up before the show, I know we've got a great guest, Corey Glore. He's going to be coming back on to talk about some Pirate baseball and other things. And then we also have Kim McNeil. She's going to be coming on, head basketball coach in her first year with the Lady Pirates. Looking forward to an exciting brand of basketball for the Lady Pirates, and it's going to be a lot of fun with her. And of course, folks, you can go to simply get men's and women's basketball tickets are on sale, and the football tickets as well. Go to ecpirates.com, or you can dial 1-800-DIAL-ECU. So, guys, do you have anything before we go?
I thought you were going to give a promo for Simply Natural Creamery.
A great place. I love their ice cream. They're great stuff, and they could be a sponsor on. If you want to sponsor our podcast, then you can definitely email us, right, Bubba?
Yeah, email us at thesportsobj@gmail.com.
That's right. Just put advertisement or something like that in the subject line.
All right, and I know we're everywhere on social media. Do you guys want to give that out?
Yeah, go to Facebook, search The Sports Objective and add us. Go to Twitter and follow us at The Sports OBJ on Twitter, and at Instagram, I believe it's at The Sports OBJ also.
The Sports Objective.
The Sports Objective on Instagram. Yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and also, by the way, folks, want to remind our great page, the Pirates Cove. YouTube channel too, yeah.
Yes, and the Pirates Cove. Come join us at the Pirates Cove on Facebook, and have it's the Pirates Cove on Facebook. It is our discussion group where you can come talk Pirate athletics. Things have been a little down in there this week with the off week, but during game week it gets pretty lively in there.
No doubt about it. And it's absolutely free. It's always going to be free. We're never going to charge you for that. That's a promise we will always keep, and that's why it doesn't matter whatever sports you want to talk about. You have it's kind of like Walmart, guys, for ECU sports. You can just come in there. It's a one-stop shop. You don't have separate pages. It's a one-stop shop. You can talk anything about Pirate athletics, right?
Right, and we won't insult you, and we won't ban you for having a different opinion than us, and we won't cuss at you and degrade you. It's a nice atmosphere and a place to be.
It's nice to be banned. I take that as a badge of honor. It's nice to be banned, so it's a great thing. All right, guys. We'll have our. We actually have a special, and Bubba, we also are going to have a college football playback on a couple days to take place of our ECU playback, right?
Yeah, we will. Just like last weekend when we caught up with Jay Sunhalter to talk about the weekend that was in college football. We'll do the same this weekend. We'll talk to Trent McGee of 94.3, who we're on with in the No Quarter Post Game show. So we'll catch up with Trent sometime on Sunday.
Sounds good, guys. I appreciate you guys very much, and we look forward to Sunday. In the meantime, for Kyle from LaGrange Barber, Bubba Rosenbaum, and our great guests today, Jon Gilbert and Evan Kruczynski, I'm Dave Richmond for the Sports Objective Podcast.
You've been listening to the Sports Objective Podcast. Join us next time as the guys will be objective, and the objective is sports.